Welcome to the Connections with Kyland podcast. This is where I bring in amazing guests and we talk about people, places, and passions that impact our lives and why they're important to us. I'm really excited to be here in Keyframe Studios in Hollywood with my dear friend, past house guest, past challenge competitor, winner of season 34 of The Amazing Race. Pretty funny, very stylish, and, most notably, Claire boyfriend, Derek Xiao.
You almost nailed that intro. You had me going for a while. I was like, okay, yeah, let's play some intro music.
Thanks so much for being here, man. I'm excited to connect with you and dive into some things from, reality TV and life and living in LA and, how I'm your hero.
Okay, so we're just going to lie. I see. Let's set the tone immediately.
Let's get into it.
Propaganda only.
Mad reflection on that, but that's okay.
This is the first time I've been at a podcast and felt more prepared than a podcaster.
Wow. Okay.
I see why Craig is here. It's the sound effects.
Yeah.
I want like a whiteboard for like burns. Yeah.
Why did he mess me up?
Yeah.
I've been so good all day.
You want me to? I can ask you questions.
Maybe. No. What would you ask me?
Well, I mean, first off, I would say like this is my first time being solo on a podcast since Big Brother. Like,
really?
So you finished Big Brother,
yeah,
and you do those string of podcasts.
Yep.
I haven't done a solo podcast since that. I was thinking about it on the drive here, and I couldn't think of any. Yeah,
wow.
I don't think I. It's either me and Claire, or after like the challenge, it was me and my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I've done. I usually go out of my way to not do these.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Of
I
course.
appreciate you coming. Thank
Yeah.
you. I will say thank you
Yeah.
for that. So wait, but you had a question?
No, that was. Oh, a question for you.
You said you were going to ask
what-
questions.
What
You're gonna take
is
this.
your inspiration for this podcast?
Oh. I think that my inspiration for this podcast, Connections with Kyland, is...
Good plug. On your own podcast. I feel like this is the one place you don't need to advertise it. If they're here,
They're in it.
For the 70 people listening, thank you.
Hey, 17.
7,
Right?
yeah.
And I appreciate all of you.
Let's not inflate the numbers.
No, I think that's actually perfect. I appreciate that. I think that connections are what run all of the world in some sense. Like both your connections to other people and then the things that you're connected to, like the passions, the places, etc. It's just like that, and everything is connected too. I feel like on a cellular level, like atoms, electrons, everything like
Yeah.
Interacts and has a connection, and every action affects another thing. So I feel like one thing I always say is that the world's a pretty complex place, and I think that a lot of that is because nothing exists in a vacuum. Like it is even things that are inside of a vacuum in a science experiment, somebody's conducting that experiment. So it's just like everything's connected to something. But since I appreciate you warming us up. I'm gonna take the reins back now. I'm gonna ask you, as far as connections, I like to start out.
Well,
Yeah.
I related to what you said, but I don't want to ruin your train of thought there.
Tell me.
I agree with that, and I think there's like a spectrum of like how much someone can like ascribe or subscribe to that philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I've had friends who have been so extreme on it that they've literally thought there is no self like the entire world is predetermined basically.
Ooh.
Because from like the very first actions, if you subscribe to that philosophy that every action leads to every other action, everything's connected, then theoretically if you were able to like measure every single like atom and everything in the world, and you knew how like every atom was going to move, then just by like tracing all of those lines, you can predict the future. So I've had people make that argument to me.
Interesting. I mean, maybe in some sense, but you would just need information though that you couldn't possibly acquire. I think that's kind of the downside.
But then I guess my thing was like, even if we were able to have all of that information, I still don't think we could predict the future.
I feel that. It's kind of like, you ever watch Minority Report?
Yeah.
I think that's, I feel, I relate to that ending where they're like, hey, this is the most likely scenario given all of this data we can look at. And then, but at the end of the day, somebody could just make a different decision, a different choice. Right. And that's the part that we can't measure. I mean, it's like we have the brain like mapped out, but they've looked at brains of like people that have done really crazy, terrible things, or people have done really amazing things, and have seen like on a cellular structure that there's like no difference in them. Not, I'm like some people obviously with certain conditions they'll find differences, but they've also examined brains where they're like, there's no reason for this. Like whatever it is something we don't know how to measure, and maybe it can't be measured. And so I feel like I understand the thought process, but it sounds like I agree with you in the sense of like there's some stuff that we can't measure maybe.
Yeah. It was like when we were on Big Brother and Claire's like, Kyland's horrible, and I was like, yeah, but you just can't measure that.
Oh my gosh.
We don't know scientifically if this is true. Exactly.
We know scientifically it's not true. Yeah. No. Well, that's perfect. First question I usually like to get into when we're, in the podcast is, how did you and I become connected?
Oh, interesting. Well, who have the podcast guests been? Me, Alyssa, I guess maybe.
Alyssa.
Yeah, season 1.
I thought you were going to be the first Big Brother person, so, but no.
R.I.P. Alyssa.
I know. Jesus. I'm sorry, Alyssa. Love you.
Well, your viewership just went down to 16.
Dang it. No, she doesn't watch. She doesn't listen. Not since she was on it.
She didn't even listen to that one. She's like, wait, I was on that?
I know, really, it's that way. This is
like that
we'll let Twitter tag her in this clip and let her remind her. She's like, oh shoot, I did do that, didn't I?
She's like, Kyland. Oh yeah, we did the challenge and Big Brother together.
What?
Okay, so barring that, what I was gonna say is like, I feel like a lot of the guests that you've had on, we have all met through Big Brother, but then we did the challenge together as well, and we both live in LA, so we've had Big Brother was a start, but we've had a continued relationship.
I mean, I'm going to take credit for moving you to LA because I understand a multitude of factors came in, but I really campaigned for that subtly, using a lot of the same inception techniques.
If it was subtly, it was very subtly, because this is my first time thinking about whether or not your name was even a factor.
That's because I was that good.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, when I first moved to LA, I didn't really know that many people, but you would have been on the list of like the 5 people that I was like, oh yeah, this person's in LA. But that would have been a factor for it not coming. So maybe in a sense of by not saying anything, I forgot that you were there, which made me more likely to come.
Well, that's really why I brought you here. I feel like constantly I've sensed that animosity and just really wanted to hopefully finally build a friendship at some point.
And speaking
get us some cordial terms.
Boxing gloves. And then we'll just...
No, well, I mean, so I yes, Big Brother for sure. But one thing I was excited about having you here for is because on that Big Brother connection, obviously I had a couple of people here. I know for me, and I don't know if you looked right or left first when you walked out of the door, but for me, you were the very first Big Brother house guest that I saw from our season.
You were the very first. I still remember that. Before we were like technically supposed to see anyone, before Big Brother starts, you're waiting in this sequester room, basically. It's on the set, and it's just you and your handler in that room. And you're waiting there for like hours and hours, basically for this live show to start.
Long time.
It's a long time. I feel like I was in there for like 3 hours. And it was funny.
Probably.
It was longer.
Yeah, we were in there.
Way longer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in there a long time.
Yeah, but I wanted to be productive during that time. And I was like, okay, let me like practice playing Big Brother. So I was trying to like finesse my jury handler and see like, could I become like good friends with this guy in like the next like 5 hours? So I was ready. I was like tuned in to want to play the game, and then the live show comes around. So I open the door, and when I open the door, as soon as I look up, I see Kyland staring, and smiling.
No, we have masks still.
Yeah, I could see, I could see the smile. That's how strong it was through the mask, looking like straight at me. And then both of our handlers were like, "Close your eyes, close your eyes," and then we had to keep going. But I'll never forget that moment because before that, I always thought, there was a chance that I could have been like the attractive person of the season. Like, okay, like, usually they cast the Asian person to be pretty nerdy, but breaking stereotypes. Like, I like this. And I saw Kyland, and I was like, all right, nope, I am definitely still the nerd.
No, that is cap because I felt that same way. I'm not towards you, obviously, but when we walked in and saw Xavier, Christian,
wait.
Travis, Brent, like I was like,
you're like, but definitely not you.
Yeah,
like, definitely not you. I saw you and I was like, okay, no, I'm still the attractive Brent.
Like an Italian stallion here. And then Xavier, this model.
I feel like our season was kind of wild in terms of like how attractive the cast was.
We really did, yeah.
Yeah. I remember being like shocked by that.
Yeah. No, it was it was not. If you're gonna be locked up with a group of people, it might as well make them pretty. I think.
It was a great group of people.
Yeah, and just great group of people in general. But what I remember about that. So we walk out, and they're like, "Hey, take off your take off your masks." And here's the deal: you guys can't talk. We're gonna have you. That's what it said. Like, we're gonna have you take off your masks, but don't say anything. Just wait to go inside and talk to Julie, but. I feel like they said don't say anything like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, all right, take off your mask, hand us a mask. And then this guy pulls off his mask. He's like, oh my God, can you believe that we're here? Like, I know, right? And then they're just like,
what did we just say? Don't talk.
What did we just talk about?
Yeah.
And then you have that moment of panic. It's like, oh, we're being kicked off right now.
Really? See, I think that is the thing of like having not watched the show that much. I just was not scared of anything. Because I didn't realize the gravity of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
Now looking back, I'm like, that was dumb. Like, I don't know why. I was just like actively I was like, yo, by the way, us 4 alliance, right? Like, like we're locked in on this. I was fully ready to put my game out there.
Because it's you, me,
Brent,
and Christian. Yeah.
Oh, I'd actually be intrigued. What was your first reads on all of us? I have specific
probably not
thoughts.
Correct, honestly. I mean, you know what I will say? I like being serious. I kind of felt it's funny you say like the nerdy thing, and I was messing about that. I see that, but like I was like, oh, this kid's cool. Like he kind of had swag a little bit, like right away.
Before we walked into the house.
As we're walking in.
Oh, as we're walking in.
Before we talked, before I had any conversations with you to find out, the truth.
Yeah.
But
which is that I didn't. Yeah. I think I was just like bouncing my knees extra as we were walking in.
I think when you walked out, you had the jacket, like you just.
Actually, that was one that I didn't prepare any game strategy going to Big Brother, but I did prepare my fashion. That was the one thing that I was like, watching back past seasons of Big Brother, I was always so like not upset, but I was just like surprised that people would go onto the show and not bring like their best fashion, maybe. Like I don't know.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of the worst part of that. I was like, I definitely brought my best possible fashion, which is like
no, but like, dude, everything I wore in Big Brother, I bought. Like I was like, I'm gonna go on national television. Like I want to look like the best like I possibly can, and it still wasn't even like that good. But I was like, I want to like look good. And that was the one thing I prepared more than anything. So that's probably the biggest compliment you could give.
No, I mean, yeah, you did that, and the. Yeah, I feel like I couldn't even tell you my first reads on. I feel like maybe Christian. I thought he was like older than he was, but then because I feel like when he starts talking, then you get all of his like youthful, excited energy.
Yeah.
And I think that he had just this manicured facial hair and thick curls. So I was like, oh, okay, like this guy, like I don't know what I thought he was or who, but
I thought he was a farmer.
A farmer.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember.
He had the flannel.
He was wearing the flannel, and he was wearing cut jean shorts. But they went like past his knees. So I was like, oh, here we go again. Like no one prepping their fashion. But I've talked to Christian about this since, and he was like, production basically made him wear that.
Yeah, they pick you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, what was I wearing?
I feel like I was the only person that fought production on what I was gonna wear.
Wait, what was I wearing?
It didn't matter what you were wearing. The smile carried.
No. I was wearing the black sweater. I was wearing a black sweater.
Your, like,
I
tax-
think gray or blue paint jeans, and like I didn't have the chain because the chain messed with the mic. They said so. I just had the black sweater with like
The one that you had like in your like Big Brother photo, like the one that was on the wall in the kitchen, like your accounting.
No,
sweater.
that was
a vest. That was a vest. Yeah,
that was a vest,
okay.
a tie, a shirt.
Man,
that was, you know what, something that I did sneak on though. Funny enough, I know, underwhelming, but they wanted me for that day to wear a purple shirt and the red tie and the vest, and I'm a big superhero fan, so I was like, well, I'm gonna wear the blue shirt and the tie. That was a little Superman homage, and I got there. And because they gave us the photos and they were super low res, like printed on paper photos, like this is what we want you to wear.
Yeah.
I was like,
I remember this.
That's a purple shirt, and I was like, I don't want to wear that.
Yeah.
And so I just wore the blue and I got there, and I remember the fashion, the designer lady was pissed.
Yeah.
Like she was like, this isn't what you're supposed to be wearing. And I was like, oh, what? This is what it looked like on the photo. Like, and she was just, this is the first time I've talked about this. I was just, I'm sorry.
I guess if I really look at it.
Comes across you. I was like, you know what? This is important to me. I need to harness my Superman energy, you know? And, did not know how accountant-like it was going to come off, but that's okay because Clark Kent, unassuming. That's the whole...
Yeah, it was definitely unassuming. It definitely threw me completely off. Well,
I wasn't wearing that. That was on the screen.
Yeah,
you didn't see me in
no,
that.
it didn't throw me off the scent, I guess. Your personality threw me off the scent of that picture. And then when I saw the picture, I was like... Oh, Kyland, nice
what was your first?
Like,
what was your first read then?
I thought you were really cool.
Oh,
yeah, I thought you were really cool. I was like, oh, this dude's like really attractive. He's got a great personality, good smile. I was like, he's very charming. Over the course of next week, obviously, I thought this was all. I was wrong about all of it.
Maybe because we're both nerdy, that's just easy to make that mistake. Because I think that like what I say, I'll often say that I'll be like, yeah, I'm not really cool. Like I was explaining this to a friend and I just was like,
yeah.
Whenever I tell people that know me, like maybe at first look, maybe I can pass somehow now.
Yeah.
But at first look, when people know me, I'm like, yeah, I was on like the chess club. They're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Chess club, acting decathlon. No one's surprised. No one's like,
I remember this. You remember like
What?
the first night, like it was either the first or second night, we were like having like a one-on-one conversation, and I was already like kind of vibing people out, and I was like, having not played Big Brother before, I was like, we should form an alliance. Like probably like 2 hours into moving in, I was like, all right, this is gonna be my number one, and then we probably rope in another person. I think we wanted X or something. This is like 2 hours into the game. I didn't even know his name.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, Kyland is really cool. And you were telling me, you were like, yeah, like I'm like pretty like, I don't know if you said nerdy, but you're like, I like superheroes or something, and like trying to like give like those kinds of hints. And I remember thinking like, I don't know if he's like saying this to try to get along with me, but it's like, it's cool, man. Like you don't have to like lie to me to, get along. Like I like you for who you are. And then the next day I was like, oh no, that is who he is. I was like, he wasn't lying. He is just, he is pretty nerdy. Yeah.
Yes. Well, okay. No, I there's plenty of Big Brother podcasts out there. You want to find out the full Big Brother stories. I'm sure it'll come up because, it's such an integral part of like our lives, and it's really hard for us to have too many conversations and never let it come up.
Yeah, kind of the only thing we talk about.
But moving, we're here today, Connections with Kyland. I want to ask you, like, what is the most important connection that you've had in your life? Like, whether that's, to a specific passion or a specific person, a specific place, any connection that's important to your life.
Crazy. Man, you really 180 the conversation. I feel like you lost the smile, too. The most important connection in my life, whether it's to a person, place, experience. Okay. I will say one of the most important connections I've had in my life, not now, but growing up, that led me to becoming, I think, closer to who I am today.
Mm.
It was this guy, I don't want to say any names, but it was this guy that I went to college with. And when I moved into college, you can imagine, really, really nerdy kid. Like when I was moving into my freshman year dorm, I had a packed car, fully packed to move into my dorm with a printer, a full-size printer. I had like 20 manila envelopes. I had like a sorting system. Envelopes. Yeah, manila envelopes. I had like colored labels, like organized everything. I had pre-bought all my textbooks. So I'm like unpacking all my stuff.
Read them already.
Yeah, everyone's already read. I've already contacted the authors, asking them if they can give me the extended versions as well. I was like, can I get this on audio?
I noticed this typo on
on page 75. So that was my perspective coming into college. And I remember it was like the second week or something of school. And my dorm had both like freshmen and sophomores. And like all the freshmen were all like hanging out like outside. And then this like sophomore kid like comes like running out. And he runs out onto like the field that we're all hanging out on, and he just starts being like super goofy. Like he's like hilarious. Like we all love him. We're like laughing. And then he like does all this, and he's like, oh, okay, I gotta go. Actually, I got engineering class in a little bit. And I guess just like one of like the big biases that I've had in my life, like growing up when I was like younger, is that I really like box people into specific lanes. Like this would like, if you were really good at sports, I was like, okay, in my head, I'd be like, this guy's an athlete and that's what he does. If someone was like really smart in school, I'd be like, okay, you know, this guy's like really academic and that's like their thing. Or they're really attractive. I'm like, okay, this person's just like attractive.
Yeah.
And like everyone had their own lane. You know, like High School Musical, you know, it was literally like, all right,
facts.
You like to sing? Okay, well, you definitely can't be a basketball player. And I just somehow, and I wasn't even conscious of it, but subliminally, I just had that mentality. And I think it was because for so long, people had like boxed me into like specific lanes that I just adopted that same mentality for other people. So this guy, again, he's good looking, he's like charming, charismatic. So as soon as I met him, I was like, okay, funny, charismatic dude, that's his lane. And then he was like, okay, I got to go to engineering class. And then after that, I have to hop over to the business school for finance. And I was like, whoa. I was like, yo, are you like a double major? He's like, yeah, I study engineering and business. I was like, wait, you're smart too? Like, it blew my mind. Like, I was actually mind blown thinking about the fact that this person could be both funny, charismatic, charming, and academic. Yeah. I was like, what? Like, one person can be all those things. I was like, stop lying to me. You're a comm major. Just say it. So after that, I basically molded my life after this person for like the first 2 years. Like, he was a part of a business fraternity. I joined that business fraternity. He did like XYZ things. I literally did those things. We became like good friends. I lived with him at one point.
Yeah.
And I'd say like having him not even as like a role model, but just like having someone that so strongly defied what I thought to be true was amazing for me, because it took me out of this like small world mindset that I had and opened me up to this idea that people can be whoever they want or choose to be, and as much as they want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that has really helped me grow into like who I am today and be more comfortable in being like authentically myself.
In all parts of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And not feel like I have to be certain things.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, I feel like just for frame of reference, I think it's important. Do you have the photo? Was that your dating profile photo?
Oh yeah, which
the first day, your your LinkedIn/dating profile.
Oh yeah.
We need to show the people where we're starting from. This is I think
yeah.
that when you said
that's not the word, dude. That was like, I was already glowing up. Yeah, yeah. I trust when I took that picture, I was like, I've made it. I was like, wow, look at
no longer nerdy.
Wow, the haters gonna hate this one when I post this on Facebook. No, man, I gotta
Is this
find
pre or post haircut that you did the haircut that changed your life.
Oh, that picture was kind of post, honestly.
Okay, all right, okay. I don't even know.
I don't know if I even really, I'm gonna have to go to like Facebook if you want.
I mean, I think that this is important because
yeah, this is good context, right?
It is exactly. Good
people
context.
probably are like, oh, he's exaggerating, and they'll see this and like, oh, he's understating
too. Actually, that's what the Claire's TikTok isn't in there.
Yeah, do you want that one? You just want the business
easy.
one?
Yeah, that'll be easy. That'll be.
I can show you the business one.
No, this is. I feel like this is. When I saw that, I was just like, wait, this is on a dating profile?
Okay, fine, relax. It's not that. Yo.
No, it's
I don't know why
picture.
you guys are laughing.
It's a nice picture. It just is funny to put it as your. Yeah, you can show the camera. It's just funny as a dating profile. It's a great photo. It's a good photo. It's just not like what you would put on a dating profile.
At the time, I was like, wow, I'm never gonna swipe left again. I was like, I used Hinge the way other people use LinkedIn. I was like, headshot, full suit photo.
No, move from that and find this role model. That's this
is probably why I felt so strongly about dressing well on Big Brother. It's because at one point there was like there was a point in time that I remember like starting to appreciate fashion, and I was like,
yeah, what caused that? Where's this fashion come in? Because you are very fashionable. I will tell you that.
It was definitely like a journey, and it was my would that be junior year or sophomore year? It was my summer of my junior year. I was interning for a company in New York, and I'll never forget this. I moved to New York for the summer, and I was living in a shared Airbnb that we did not know was going to be a shared Airbnb. So the host was still living there, and then we thought it was going to be a 2-bedroom, and it was going to be 1 bedroom for me, 1 bedroom for my friend. And we move in, and the host is like, "Oh no, I didn't say it on the listing." No, yeah, me and my girlfriend, we're going to live here. So
this is your room.
You guys are going to have to use that room.
How long did you book this for?
3 months. It was the whole summer. So me and my...
Oh, my God.
Me and my
friend, what a deal. This is
the
best deal
literally.
ever. This price?
No, now looking back, I'm like, okay, I guess like it should have made sense why it wasn't. But yeah, we ended up having to share a single bed the entire summer. And it was that summer, just walking around New York, and I was like seeing people like always like crazy like outfits and like fashion statements, and I was like, wow, like I love it. People really use their clothing to express like how they feel and like who they are.
Yeah.
And I just love that. And I remember buying like a ton of like new clothing that summer. It was probably my first time ever buying like new clothes for myself. I think prior to this, my closet was furnished by my mom. Like 99% of it was furnished by my mom.
And then, but where'd these influences come from? Because
people on the street. It was literally
you just see people. You're like, yo,
yeah, I just see,
good.
yeah.
It wasn't like
because I never seen anything like that before. I grew up in the rural part of Maryland, so we all wore Aeropostale and American Eagle. And then I moved to college, and I guess like I don't know, college. No one really cares about dressing. It's like everyone's wearing sweatpants or like you're wearing like your frat T-shirt. Like at least
not
that was the impression. Okay, yeah, that may be the difference. Is on the West Coast, I feel like people might be stunning a little bit, but for me, I was like, I don't know. Everyone's wearing freaking like Vineyard Vines.
That makes sense because I feel like every movie that I'm thinking of when they show kids at college, like it's usually East Coast colleges, and they are all wearing the same. Like, they're wearing
the same thing. Yeah,
they're whatever.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, Sperry's.
Yeah.
A pair of like skinny jeans.
That's wild.
A polo T-shirt.
It's like growing up, like in Southern California. I remember tripping out at all of these hallways and lockers and stuff because like we don't have that, at least anywhere that I've seen, like in the high desert, because I think all the school, everything's out kind of open space. Like the buildings are separate. It's not like one giant block where you have rows. So every movie is just the rows of like you walk through the hallway and there's lockers on both sides. I don't think I've seen that in my life.
Okay, so That's so funny that you anchored on that, because I feel like when I think about like Disney Channel movies growing up, I remember seeing like the open lockers.
Okay.
And like
outside?
Yeah, like outside. Like, I feel like Sky
you just
High.
recognize what
like-
you don't have. I feel like you just
Yeah.
notice the thing that's novel.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
probably
Or
what
like
it is.
Windy Woo, for sure. In Windy Woo, Homecoming Warrior, I remember that one. I feel like Sky High as well. They would walk outside and have these lockers just like floating in the middle of like nowhere, and I'm like, whoa, that's wild. People are just walking outside between class. Like I thought about that. Like I thought that was college. Like that's what I thought college was gonna be like. It's people just getting to like walk outside during the day.
All right, wait, quick aside, because you mentioned Windy Woo and Sky High. What were like the Disney Channel original movie bangers for you?
Dude, all of them. I watch them religiously. Like, you know
Okay.
how Disney movies, they used to start like advertising them about like 2 weeks before?
Yeah.
And we're like, on this day at this time.
Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night.
Friday
9:10 Eastern or 9:10 Pacific
Oh.
Central. Like, dial in. I would be dialed in. Like, I would tell my mom, like, we have to
course.
be back at home by this time. So I remember watching like, okay, I didn't catch High School Musical 1, I don't
Okay.
think.
Like too young for it?
No, I saw it, but
Oh.
just like I
Oh, you didn't catch it
have
on
the
premiere.
like alarm set to watch
okay.
it.
Yeah.
But then every High School Musical after that, and then of course like Camp Rocks, Scott, yeah, literally every single Disney movie.
No, I'm asking because I want to see where the alignment is, because I know we're a couple years difference, and like at that age, when you're that young,
Really understating a couple. I'll let it slide. I'll let it. But a couple.
Jesus
A couple
Christ.
usually means a couple, like uno dos couple. I don't think
all right,
it's
I'm
a
ancient.
couple. Look,
Are you even a millennial? No. Are you on the cusp?
I don't know.
What year are you born? You're 96?
If I say it, I don't want you to have to say yours. So I'm trying to spare you.
I don't need to say mine. Wait, are you 96 or 97?
I'm 97.
97. Yeah, I don't even think you're a millennial. I think you're
Yeah.
Gen Z technically.
Are you
I
19th
feel
or
like it's
18th century?
19th century.
19th. Okay.
1800s.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
1874. I just, blacks don't crack. That's what it is.
Yeah. I just want to know, what was the overlap? Were you watching black and white or like?
Actually, the world was black and white. That's what you guys don't realize. The world was black and white, and then it didn't go to color till like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The
Of course.
30s.
Of course. And you guys didn't talk for a while.
Yeah,
right? It was
exactly.
just
Yeah. The top.
mouthing. Yeah.
Nobody. Everything was words spontaneously.
Yeah. Okay.
Floated through the air. I saw like somebody was telling their kid that they were telling their child like, oh yeah, the world was just black and white, and I was like, wow, you can convince your children of anything.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I was asking the movies, because you said Camp Rock. Camp Rock was like at the cutoff. Like I was too old for Disney Channel original movies by like Camp Rock.
Oh,
So
no.
that's why
I was
wondering,
watching
like,
Camp
what
Rock.
else were you watching?
What
Yeah.
was like? Okay, so I don't know what movie, but I remember one of the last things I pretty much watched on Disney was I watched the final episode of Sweet Life, Zack and Cody on Deck.
Okay.
And I remember like crying to that because I was like, whoa, that is like the end of an era right
Wild.
there. Because I grew up watching Sweet Life of Zack and Cody
Mm-hmm.
and then went on Deck. And then I was still watching Disney Channel when the last episode aired.
See, I saw Sweet Life, and then by the time I went on Deck, like if my sisters were watching it, or my friends' younger siblings, I
Yeah.
might like catch an episode or whatever. But like it's crazy. Just at that age, the at those formative years, it's like can be such a difference in terms of what you're watching or seeing. But
Yeah.
like Brink or Alley Cat Strike. You ever see those ones? Johnny Tsunami.
Hey, you don't want to do this to yourself, man. Yeah, you don't want to go.
Why are you this way?
Look,
I'm not even going to Famous Jet Jackson. We're just gonna.
I didn't even say any of this. You're doing this too.
Okay. Anyways,
It's like you remember listening to like the Jackson 5 and like he's like, man. He's like, there was just some really good bands back in the day.
Oh my gosh. Why are you this way? No, Jackson 5.
Young? What do you mean this one?
Okay. Moving back to like upbringing.
Okay.
And less about you because I'm done with you now. No. One thing I found super fascinating, and I'd met him before, but I feel like your dad has a crazy like
life story.
life story.
Yeah.
So kind of in whatever abbreviated version you feel want to hit those high points. I was like, mind blown by
Yeah,
your dad.
yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell?
And honestly, I was pretty mind blown when he told me because he didn't
How-
tell me
yeah.
until very recently.
This is like recently that he just started telling you about his past.
Yeah. He never mentioned any of this until pretty much. So it was the middle of the pandemic. Actually, not even the middle. It was 2020. It was the end of like 2020, and I had quit my job, and I told my parents, I was like, "Hey, look, guys, I'm thinking about quitting my job." And I want to like start my own business. And they were like, I don't think you should do this. Like, it's the middle of the pandemic right now. Like, you have a pretty stable job. And I was like, I feel like really young right now and have a little bit of savings and I want to take a risk. And if I don't take this risk now, I just feel like I don't know when I would do this again. And I was talking to my parents and my dad was like, okay, as long as you have a game plan, if you have a game plan and you can like pitch it to me and your mom and we think it's like solid, like you'll have like our blessing pretty much. So I take like a couple weeks, put together all these things, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna work on, and I give it to my parents, and they're like, all right, like we wouldn't invest in this, but
That was the food.
Yeah, that was like a food
business.
thing, and they were like, okay, like we're excited that you're taking initiative and actually doing something. So sure. So I quit my job, and then for the next couple of months, I'm working on this. And then another couple of months go by, and I'm working on it less. And another couple of months go by, and I'm like not doing anything anymore. And it was in like
And living.
and still living at home,
Yeah.
living at home. And it was in those last 6 months, I'm like not doing anything. And then my dad sits me down at dinner one day, and he's like, "Have I ever told you a story about how I came to America?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." So he proceeds to tell me the story. So basically, my parents, they both grew up in China, and my dad grew up in like a very rural part. So like his family was kind of like farmers.
Farm.
Yeah, they worked at farms.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he's like one
real
of, like,
farm.
Yeah, exactly. He has a ton of siblings. And no one in his town had ever gone to college before. But my dad was like, okay, I'm gonna like study hard, go to school. So the nearest school, I think, it's funny when he tells the story. I think the distance that he says of how far away it is like increases by the year. I think like when he first told me, it was like, yeah, it's like 2 miles down the road, and now it's like it was 23 miles down the road. I had no shoes, and it was 500 degrees outside.
And snowing.
So somewhere between, I'm pretty sure the answer is like 5 miles. So it's like
Okay.
5 miles down the street. But again, he like works at a farm, right, for his family. So
Honestly, 2 miles is far if you're
Yeah,
walking
yeah, even
every
2
day.
I remember I had to walk 300 feet to the bus stop, and I was like, "Oh, Mom, can you drive me to the bus stop today? Like, it's raining
When you're
outside."
smaller, your legs are smaller. But
Yeah.
no, but 5
So-
miles, yeah.
So he still has to work the farm, but he also wants to prioritize school. So he wakes up at literally like 4 or 5 a.m. He works the farm until like noon, and then like walks to school, and then goes to school, comes and then does a full day there, walks back, and then works the farm at night, and then repeats that the next day. So he does this, becomes the first person from his town to go to college. He goes to college, and he's like, I want to become a doctor. And the way China worked back then, maybe it's also the way it does now, is if you want to be a doctor, it was basically the same thing as doing your undergraduate degree plus maybe 1 year. It was just like a different track you did. So he wants to be a doctor, again, studies for that, becomes a doctor, and he then goes on to become the first emergency doctor at the #1 hospital in Beijing. From
It has to be like
literally
one of the
growing up
number
on a
one.
farm.
Yeah, it has to be like #1 hospital in Beijing is probably a #3 hospital in the entire
At
country?
that,
Or
no.
okay.
Well, in the country or in the world? Sorry.
Country.
Oh, country. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. In China, yes. Sorry, I
Yeah.
thought you were saying the world. I was like,
No.
maybe top 500.
Maybe now.
Yeah, now.
Probably. Yeah, I don't
now
know.
better. But so, anyways, yeah, literally grew up on a farm and then went on to become literally the first ER doctor at this hospital. And he tells me this entire story with the goal of just saying, basically, I did all of that for you, and now you're not doing anything. And that's when I knew I was really messing up my opportunity. And I was like, it's also funny because it's been like 25 years at that time, and he had never once told me the story. And now he's finally deciding to tell it to me. And I was like, that's how I know things are not going that well for me. If he's pulling out this Hail Mary and being like, I need to motivate you somehow.
I mean, okay, yeah, I would say I find that crazy. Just everything. It's such a American dream story. Actually, if you wouldn't mind, real quick, because then he came here, and I feel like even that was crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he became like one of the first doctors in China, or first ER.
Just
doctors.
way more interested in your dad than you.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
point.
No, I mean,
that's why I brought you here.
I honestly I was too. He told me a
No.
story, and I was like, "You're right. I'm gonna apply for Big Brother." I was like, "I need to do something with my life." So, okay, he's a doctor in China, but then because he's doing some pretty like cutting edge stuff, a lot of like American researchers and like other researchers from across the world are visiting this hospital, just to kind of see like, oh, like what kind of medicine are like Chinese doctors practicing. So people would come and then they meet my dad and they're like, oh, you should come like give a conference like at our hospital here. So he went to like Europe and he visited different places in America, and one of the places he visited in America, it was for this cardiologist. And my dad started doing like research for him. And I think it was like Pittsburgh. So my dad's doing research for him, and there's a ton of other like postdocs, people from like all over the world. And my dad, this is him telling a story. One day that cardiologist came up to my dad and was like, look, I know I have like a lot of people working here, but honestly, you are just by far away like the best one that I have. And I want you to move to the US and work for me full time. And my dad was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I have a whole family. And he was like, no, I'll take care of them too. I'll also like bring your family here.
He had one child at the time?
Yeah, it was just my older
Yeah,
brother.
just your brother.
Just my older brother. And he's like, I'll also like bring them. And that guy who brought my dad basically to the US,
Yes.
he ended up becoming the cardiologist that discovered CPR.
Invented.
I guess not discovered, but he invented CPR. And I think
That's
even if you
wild.
look him up now on like Wikipedia, his like name in quotes is like the father of cardiology, maybe? It's like the
Something
father
like
of
that.
like something.
Wow.
And that is the guy that my dad ended up working for. And then he just had
In Pittsburgh?
in Pittsburgh.
Is that where your dad got stuck at the hotel? That whole
No,
thing?
no,
Oh.
that was in Europe. That was like one of the conferences. But okay, so he comes to Pittsburgh. That guy like expedites my dad's visa to come here, and he comes. My mom comes. Our whole family moves, and they start working. But my dad, after maybe like a couple of years, is like, I'm doing research right now, but back in China I was a doctor, and I think I want to become a doctor again.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, in the U.S., like, there's still a couple things you have to go through, like, because that was a Chinese education system. So he
Yeah.
had to retake all of the tests. But now he was taking them in English. And you have to think, like, okay, he doesn't really know English. And Western medicine is completely different than Eastern medicine. So it's also learning new material. So my dad self-taught himself the entire curriculum of what you were learning 4 years in med school in the span of like 3 to 6 months, and then took the exams, passed them all, and then did a residency at a university in Louisiana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that.
But then I won the Amazing Race.
Oh my
So, like,
gosh.
I feel like
That was. I feel
Who-
like there's a way
who
I was
worked
gonna
harder?
bring that up that was going to make it sound much more impressive, and now you just did the opposite.
oh no.
But I mean, I think that your dad's whole story is amazing, and
It's literally the
probably-
American dream.
Yeah, yeah, and
100%.
but outside of his whole story, I have two favorite stories about your dad, and one of them was the hotel. I don't know if you want
Yeah,
to share that.
Okay, it was the room service, basically, the hotel
The
mini
bill-
bar. Yeah, the
yeah, the
hotel
mini
mini bar.
Yes,
I don't know. It might be illegal. I don't know.
is it still
I don't know.
statute of limitations? You don't have to.
I'd rather not.
Okay.
Maybe.
Subscribe on Patreon and you'll see this story. No.
Like 7 more years, double the statute.
There we
of
go.
limitations.
We'll make
Yeah.
sure. We'll make sure we're past.
Yeah.
No. So that story is hilarious, but my favorite story about your dad is actually more serious. And in the Big Brother house, I remember you were telling me about how your dad during COVID would, because he's working emergency room,
Yeah.
right?
ER doctor.
And it's a crazy time,
Yeah.
which is weird to think about, like, because digital content lasts forever. So, like, let's say, somebody's watching this years from now, it's like, and they were reading about COVID in like hospital, in like a history
Yeah.
book.
But I know what story you're about to tell. And
Yes,
yeah, it would
yes.
definitely put it in perspective of
Yes.
what the front line actually like experienced. Okay, so my
Yeah.
dad's an ER doctor and he still works. So when COVID starts, I'm living in New York at the time, and then I moved back home from New York in March 5th or like 10th, basically, because my dad called me and he was like, you need to leave the city right now. Like, you need to come home with like me and your mom. I'm working in the ER and things are looking really bad, and we just don't know where this is gonna go. And me just being like a kid in New York, not knowing, like at the tail end of the news cycle, basically, I was like, it's not that bad. Like, I'm watching the news right now. Like, people are saying it's probably gonna blow over pretty soon.
We'll close for 2 weeks.
Yeah, literally. I was like, I'm working from home. It's actually pretty nice. Like, I don't really have to leave the apartment. My dad's like, no, it's bad. Like, you have to come. So I leave my apartment. I move back home with my parents, and that was March of 2020. From March of 2020 through to basically, I mean, like, maybe March of 2022, like a year and a half to 2 years, my dad lived in our basement floor to quarantine himself away from like our entire family for that entire year and a half, 2 years. He would come in through the basement, go straight to the basement shower. He would shower, sleep in the basement, and then my mom would cook food, put it at the top of the stairs. He would walk to the top of the stairs, grab the food, bring it back downstairs, eat downstairs, wake up in the morning, go back to work, and then do that. And then I don't want to make it really sad, but like for dinner, we like FaceTime him, and he would be like downstairs, but we'd like FaceTime him.
Yeah, because, and I think it's crazy because people can think of that as like extreme behavior, but it's just like if you're spending your day watching people die from this disease, then I think that's a perfectly reasonable precaution to take. Yeah. And that's, I feel like getting to recall that, and you know, we spent New Year's Eve together. It was my parents and your parents and Claire, and I just remember getting to recall that and like shake his hand. I was like, I was just in awe of the person that he is. And I think, you know, I did an interview. We had Chada on the podcast, Hannah Chada, and you know, she just graduated, is headed off to med school. And she was just talking about, you know, I was asking like, what motivates you to do that sort of deal? Because it's, you know, it's a challenging profession. And she was talking about how some people just have a calling to be a helper, to care for people in such a deep way. And it's, you know, super clear that that is something that your father has in him, like is passionate about, is you know, helping people save lives, like, and sacrificing to do that. And I think that's really commendable and amazing that that you know, have that person in your life. And I will say to you, I think that you have exhibit like so much of that positive sort of desire to like uplift people and to help people. On a serious note, I think I've never, you know, we mess around, joke with each other, with our friends, but I've never I feel like I've never seen you, like, you know, walk past someone that is seeming, you know, down and not extend a hand or a kind word or something. And I think that's,
you haven't seen me on Big Brother All Stars yet. Just wait.
I was like, am I gonna make it through this without jokes?
No, you weren't.
No. I just, I want to, you know, commend you on being, you know, a stand-up person that has helping people through the core of you. I think that's one of the reasons why I think so highly of you, and why I love having you as a friend, and just, you know, a brother in this reality TV space. Like, so many people have come into our lives in a very deep way in the past 2 years that our entire lives turned upside down, and I'm thankful for you for because of that energy and that person that you are for that.
I appreciate you, and
I think your dad for that.
Yeah. So basically, you're just complimenting my dad.
Yes. Yeah. That, just wanted to be clear. I give you none of that credit. No.
I feel like everything you said about me, I think, like, when you were just saying those words, that is how I would describe you as well. Like, I think you have a very, like, genuine heart. You genuinely, like, care strongly for people, even though you might not show it on Big Brother, but you know, it's deep down in there, and
deep down, it's somewhere in there. No,
I remember on Big Brother, like, I think sometimes you would like say that you're like, yeah, like, you know, like, I care like really strong for people, and I'd be like, Okay, well, that's a pretty good strategy. Like, it's pretty good game talk. I never really saw it, but then after the show,
that's not the game we're playing.
I've like genuinely very, very, very kind person.
No, I appreciate it. I'm trying. But you know what it is? You know what I will say about you? It's funny you say kind. I definitely strive to be kind, and there's a difference between being kind and being nice. And nice is like, in my opinion. I think of nice as like shallow, and you could be nice to someone without being kind. You could say the nice words, and you're kind. You're usually nice, but you're also very
that's funny
because you're not.
I actually was just about to say the same thing for you. I was like, I definitely would say you're kind. I was like, I think at times you can be misinterpreted to like not be nice, but like I know what your intentions are, and they're very pure.
And it's funny because I think I could see how that could be true for both of us, but in such different ways. Because mine would be like, just not being interpreted that way, and yours is like just because you're constantly making jokes or joking about someone. Yeah. It's just witty. You have so much wit that it's hard to not rag on somebody. I feel like for you sometimes, but. So obviously we've done all these shows. You've done all these shows. You did 3 in a year's time.
Why are you saying we?
I know, you're right. Sorry. You did shot 3 shows in a year. Man was running.
Literally.
Facts. So going over, we've done the podcast. I know you and Claire did tons on Amazing Race. Is there anything from these experiences, Big Brother, The Challenge, Amazing Race, that you feel like, we haven't gotten to talk about, that you haven't gotten to talk about, like in these podcasts and interviews that you just haven't gotten to talk about as much?
Well, one thought I've been having recently is just as we start becoming closer and closer friends with people that are in the reality space, it's going to get harder and harder to do these shows. Because a lot of these shows come down to, like, maybe not betraying is the right word, but like prioritizing yourself over someone else that you care about.
Mm-hmm.
And
or prioritizing someone that you care about over someone that you care about.
As much. Or just 2 people you care. Also, that situation, which is almost like a harder situation. Way harder. And I was just thinking about it recently because, Hannah did this like little game show in like LA and invited a bunch of us to go do it.
Yeah.
And at the end of that show, it was like me, Brittany, Azza, and like Claire and like some other people. And we all had a vote on like who we thought was going to be the winner. And it was an inconsequential vote. There was no prize. Like there was no stakes. Literally just a title of being able to say that you won that game. And we came down to the very last round, and basically it was either Ozzy was going to win or Brittany was going to win, and they were both campaigning hard. You remember this?
Yes, I remember.
They were both campaigning super hard, and earlier in the day, I kind of told Brittany, I was like, okay, Brittany, I'm riding with you. And then I told Ozzy too. I was like, all right, Oz, I'm riding with you. You
Typical Derek gameplay.
You just don't know how far you're going to get or if you were going to get. So, and we get to the end, they're both still there. And I end up becoming like the swing vote to decide who's going to win this game. And they're both standing shoulder to shoulder, like pitching me incredibly hard. Like their life is depending on this. And Brittany's like, have I ever betrayed you? How could you not vote for me? Tell me one time in this game that I betrayed you right now. And Oz is like, okay, what about this time and this time? Brittany's like, those don't count. And then they're yelling at each other. They're yelling at me. And I was like, oh my God, if we are this like intense about a fictitious game, like I couldn't even imagine how intense it would be if this was actually for $500,000, $1 million
of any sort.
Like it was just gonna get impossible at some point.
Yeah, I have definitely wondered that, especially like as we're in this like challenge now, we're in this challenge universe, and I know that you said that you were talking with Tiffany, and what was she talking about?
I talked to Tiffany after she got back from filming the show, and we were talking about this exact thing, and she brought it up independently, and I was just asking her how the show went. She was like, it was good, we had a ton of fun, and she was like, I was living in the same room as like Chanel and Desi, and I think like Amira, and she was like, but DX, like these shows, they just get really hard because at some point in the show, you have these people that you care about, but then it's, I need to put my own priorities before theirs, but they are also trying to put their priorities before yours. But you guys might have something together, and it's like, oh, why are you doing that when that hurts me?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like, we've only known each other for like a year, and then imagine if we know each other for another 5 years and do the show. Like, that's impossible to make a decision like that.
The way that some of these people in the challenge have been doing this for years and years and like playing these games back to back, I find that super interesting for that exact reason, because you'll see somebody that has, you see people that used to be engaged playing this game and approaching it with these ties and trying to make a decision based, but it's just a game at the same time. And that's one thing I've talked about with people. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Is it's hard to explain it, but we'll make these analogies about I was gonna talk about Shan made this analogy, but I'm like, I don't know if this sounds like shade, we'll cut it out. I know that Shan, she was a pastor, like youth pastor, right? And she would talk about, I'm a youth pastor, but when I play Monopoly, like I don't, I'll still play aggressively. Like I don't mind taking someone's property and bankrupting them or whatever. I'm not gonna be like, oh, because I'm a pastor, I'm supposed to give you all my money and or whatever. Yeah. And these games, it's the same thing. Like I play the same way, and I think that for so many of us, we'll look at the games and we'll compare it to like Monopoly or just some trivial game, but these are different. Like, and I think explaining the difference is tricky because it's like the stakes, and I don't know if it's just the money though, because I feel like the stakes of the money are one part of it, but I feel like there's another part, and that's the part I have trouble explaining, is like and I'm someone who I care a lot less, I think, in the personal side of the games. Like to my detriment, I've been trying to measure. I'm like, wow, people actually are afraid to piss someone off. I should probably figure out. And I go around like in the first challenge, like not really caring, because I'm like, oh, like I'm not gonna be upset at you if you put me in or you do whatever. Like it's just a game. Who cares? Yeah. And because that's how I feel. But I've just realized that people don't feel that way, and I'm like,
they take it seriously.
Maybe I should. Pretend to feel that way at least.
So here's the one thing I would say about like, okay, the Shan analogy of, I'm a pastor, but when I play Monopoly, it doesn't matter. I totally agree with that. So in a scenario where it's like, look, when it's either me or you, just as human beings, I feel like we're all pretty, like self-centered, and we'll always put ourselves first. But when it comes down to the situations of, is it going to be you or this other person? Those are the situations that I'm saying are going to get really hard, because then you are indirectly kind of saying, I care about this person a little bit more than I care about you. And that just sucks. Like,
and I feel like that's the annoying part about that is the way I would make that decision. That what you just said is how someone will interpret that decision.
Yeah.
For me, if I was to make that decision, I think about, this person can handle this elimination, this challenge, better than this person. So it's like, I like you both, so I'd rather give the person who has better odds of surviving this that challenge.
Yeah.
I think the hard part about this game is that person does not
People don't
accept
interpret
that
it that way. Right?
They do, like even explained, they do not feel that is not received in their feelings, in their bodies. And I almost wonder, I think that's as with many areas of my life, I feel like I realize I'm like, emotions are just so frustrating and
Really? You're frustrated by emotions?
It's just like
wish
people,
you could turn them off.
I'm frustrated by other people's emotions. I'm like, wait, but this makes sense. So why are you tripping about it? And then it's like, as soon as something makes sense, I realize I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So that's fine. But if somebody, but people don't do that. And I think that's what I was saying is I'm curious of, what do you think makes these games not Amazing Race? I think that's a unique experience because like it's you versus the obstacle sort of deal almost is the way you've explained it before. But for these other games, what do you feel? Why is it that it's different? Is it just the stakes, the fact that there's money involved, or is there something more?
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like it's safe to say that even though we'll make that analogy like, oh, it's just a game, guys. It's just a game.
Right.
Like when you say it's just a game about Monopoly, like that's true.
Why do
when
we
you say it's
feel
just
like
a game
it's more...
in Big Brother, it's just a game in the challenge. It's like when you
Obviously,
play them,
it's the stakes. Like,
is it just that's what I'm saying? Is it just the fact that there's money, or is there something else, some other aspect that you can identify? Because I feel like it's more than the money, but I can't identify what it is.
I mean, I think it's kind of like at the very extreme, it's like you're taking away someone's like livelihood almost. So let's say like the best case scenario. So like Johnny Bananas, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's been able to make a livelihood off of doing the challenge. He might not win every season, but just from like going far, he gets invited back. If you get invited back, you get the appearance fee, and then you get like the publicity out of it. You can grow social media, make money from brand deals.
He has a whole TV show.
Yeah, exactly. So he's made literally a career just off of doing the challenge. Now imagine if every time, like for the first couple of seasons, every time he went back, he got voted off first. Out first, out first, out first, out first. He's not gonna get invited back anymore. And then this career that he has now would not have happened. Yeah. So in a way, you like that's the extreme scenario. Like if you really want to think that way, like you could of like you're taking its opportunity lost. Yeah. Is what you're taking away from people. Like outside of like the money, it's okay, if I'm on the show for another week, I have like more exposure, and if I'm trying to grow like my online presence, that could lead to more brand deals, and then like that can snowball into even more. So it's kind of like you're kind of like firing someone from a job almost.
I think so it's not even about the money, it's about what the money can do.
It's not what the money can do, but it's like all the different
plus the potential. It's
the career. It's almost, if you think about it like as a career, like 'cause a lot of people do reality TV as their career. Yeah. It's you're hurting someone's like job, Yeah. Yeah.
No, I've found that part interesting. I've also noticed another thing I've realized trying to talk to people that haven't played the games is outside of affairs, someone cheating on a significant other, where in people's real life do they get to use the term betrayal?
Betrayal or trust?
Betrayal.
Betrayal.
When are you betrayed?
Yes,
like, 1,000%. I've noticed that. I talk to people like, have you ever been, outside of being cheated on potentially in a relationship, have you ever been betrayed?
Yes.
And it's just like...
This is actually one of the things that I probably explain the most to people that haven't done this show. It's betrayal, but then trust. Like, in the relationship, there's like, oh yeah, you have to like trust your significant other, but it's like... Yeah, kind of. It's not the same, It's like the level, like when people that play these games like say trust, it's like your life is in their hands. Like it is really actually like trust, and you don't have those feelings. Like these feelings of needing to put full trust in someone else, like being able to or to feel like you got betrayed from someone. Those don't happen outside of these games. Yeah, which is crazy. It's crazy.
Oh man.
And I think like those are things that are hard to explain to other people when people are like, oh, like what did you take away from Big Brother? Like how did it change you? What did you learn? I consistently mention those two things in terms of like learnings.
Okay, on trust. Big Brother, no cookout. We get to final 3. You win the last HOH.
Who's we?
You, me, and... Which person in that spot do you take over me from our cast? From what you can remember.
Oh, a lot of people. I should say who I wouldn't take.
This is the betrayal thing.
I should say who I wouldn't take.
Is this in terms of relationship, or is this in terms of securing a win?
I think I would have been able to justify it in both ways. Yeah, I think I would have been able to be like, I'm closer to Tiffany, and she's helped me more in this game, and I think I can beat her. And I think like I easily could have justified that. I could have justified.
You thought you could have beat Tiffany? I know it's hard.
Yeah,
these hypotheticals are really hard. I will say, and that's why I don't mind asking them, because I don't take it personally, because there's so many different things.
Actually,
that would
you know
be
what?
Different.
Maybe I would have taken you. Actually, I don't know. It's hard to remember
the hypotheticals
back
are hard,
what I was actually thinking.
Hindsight is a lie too. People say hindsight is 20/20. I want to go on the record to let people know Like,
No,
we have
you make up
so much
stories.
data that shows, and like that is absolutely false. Hindsight is not 2020.
There's studies done of people
Yeah.
when they ask them like, where were you from 9/11?
9/11 people that said that they could see it,
Yes.
and then they traced it, and they were literally in another
Not
state.
there. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
You're like, yeah, you actually were in Kentucky.
But I swear I could have beaten you at a final task.
And that's actually why I don't mind asking, because I'm like, because I get to dismiss it entirely if I don't like the answer.
Yeah.
So I don't mind.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
like,
no,
they were just making that up.
You're actually wrong. My memory of it is, my hindsight is
Okay,
actually
so
2020.
I mean,
My hindsight's like 2010.
you also have to remember, man, I was evicted like the second day of Big Brother, basically. So
Oh my gosh.
it's hard to think about like how much the game would have changed. But at the point that I was evicted, I remember thinking I couldn't beat anyone almost. Like I remember feeling like I was like, okay, I definitely can't beat Tiffany. Actually,
I know it's so hard to remember how you really felt.
I don't remember. All I remember is I just knew I couldn't beat Tiffany, and I was at that point I still thought I was going to go to the end, and I had already accepted that I would lose to Tiffany at the end. So basically, I think I could have won Big Brother.
You know, I think that there's ways that game could have played out that you could have won for sure. I think that you know, no, I will say I do remember. It was funny, like watching, hanging out with you. Going back to the swag that I saw when I very first saw you before we ever had a conversation on Big Brother. When I saw that whole, I was like, "Dang, this kid's kind of cool." Like, swag, or whatever.
Yeah,
you had that for reals. Pretty much from the time you got back from the Amazing Race. So it's really hard not to think that you won.
Oh, really? He's walking so different.
It's like, is he standing straight?
Did he always have that Mercedes?
Yeah,
I feel like that's not like.
Oh my gosh. No. All right. Wait. Is there any way? So, yeah. So, winning $1 million on Amazing Race. Obviously, you guys have done tons of interviews. Check them out, and you have your whole episode recaps that you did with Claire on your YouTube.
Yeah. Every episode.
Check them out. But is there anything that you thought on the Amazing Race, like you guys won $1 million from the time you won, that a way that you expected your life to be different that it is not, or vice versa, or something that did change that you're like, oh, I didn't think about this?
You know, the concept of hedonic treadmill?
Yeah.
Okay.
You feel that?
Yeah, and I didn't foresee.
Well, let's explain the hedonic.
Okay, yeah. So basically, my understanding of it, hedonism is the idea of like chasing pleasure, and then the idea of the hedonic treadmill is, okay, let's say I have the goal of making $100,000 a year. I will run on this treadmill and try to hit that goal. But then once I get to that goal, studies have been done that we now like reset our thinking of what is going to make us happy. And now $100,000 is the baseline. And now I tell myself in my head, I'm not going to be happy until I get $500,000. And I set that new goal. And then you start running again. And then you hit that goal. And now that's the baseline. And you're like, now I want $1 million. And you start running for that goal. You hit it. And that's why it's a treadmill, is because you are chasing after this thing that you think is going to make you happy, but then it doesn't. That just becomes the new baseline, and then you're now running after a new goal. So I've, felt that at multiple points in my life. I thought I had not conquered it, but just, very cognizant of that. And after I won the race, I felt like I would just feel very relaxed. I just wouldn't feel like a monetary or financial pressure on myself anymore, and I could just enjoy life more.
Yeah.
But then that feeling went away so quick. I thought I would have that feeling for at least a year, but it went away within 6 months. And I was
Is that when tax season hit? Right.
Yeah, probably. It probably lined up perfectly with the stock market crash. I was like,
facts.
And no, but yeah, it was just after a couple of months, I just started feeling like I need to get back to work. I just had this itch to want to start hustling again and wanting things. And I don't know, I just was surprised by that feeling because financially, I'm doing so much better than what I thought I would be at this stage of my life. So I hit the goal of what I wanted.
I won $1 million.
Yeah.
That's the number that they said.
Not quite. Naughty. And yeah, and then now I just feel like I'm just running on treadmill again, and I'm like, okay, new goals. Like there's new things I want to hit. I'm like, like why? Like I did the thing.
What do you think about like having an awareness of that, having awareness of like, okay, there's the Hedonic treadmill. This probably isn't good for me to get stuck in this, always pursuing the next thing. What tools or thoughts do you put in place that you think about to try and combat that?
Okay, that's a good question. And actually, this could be perfect for this podcast. Is I've been trying to rewire how I quantify my goals.
Okay.
So away from money and more towards my relationships. And I think I've come to this place where I've accepted that everyone will just be on this treadmill. And it is just a part of like our human wiring. And I just, unless you're literally like Buddha or like you're about to ascend to nirvana, I don't think anyone can get off of this. But the way that I'm approaching it is by changing what is the thing that I'm chasing after so that I'm fine working harder for that. And like, I'm fine continuing to run towards this. And the thing for me is like, if my goal is to have more, better, and stronger relationships, I think if I look back on life, I won't regret having worked hard towards that.
Wow. Yeah, I think I feel like you're dropping some truth, man. That's deep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I like that because one thing I've always thought about is applying that thought process to effort instead of results. Like, because so many factors can come into life that can impact whether or not, something goes our way, everything from the economy to, international politics or terrorism or whatever. So many different factors can come into play, just pure luck.
Oh, for 100%, like winning the lottery. Like you could just win the lottery.
Or, getting injured, whatever it happens to be. And an analogy that I heard that I always really liked was like, hey, I can't guarantee that I'll make it to the top of this mountain, but I know that when I die, you'll catch me either waving from the top or dead on the side. Like I'm in pursuit of these things, and that's what I control. What I control is like almost. I used to work a lot of sales stuff when I was younger, and I think about like I would have a goal in my head, like I'd love to get this done. But when I got really good, I switched my goal from making this much money to input of effort. So it's like I'm gonna do 100 calls or whatever it happens to be, or 1,000 calls this week or whatever it was. And as soon as I shifted to that, and I was celebrating that, like, I'm celebrating that I did this. It didn't matter what the result was.
You can't really control, to some extent, but like, you can't control how those calls go. You might have a good day, you might have like a bad day, but you can always do the 100 calls.
Yeah, exactly. You can always feel good about that, and you can celebrate that, and you can celebrate effort. And it is, but I like that concept though of now even adding to that, like, what is it that I'm pursuing? Like almost shifting what the effort is moving towards to this thing that I think relationships, kind of like I said, going back to your very first question that you asked me to start off the podcast in terms of like why connections is so important to me. I think that, relationships are such a big factor for our ability to enjoy our life, like not just, in a tangible way, but in all the intangible ways. Like the quality of our relationships can dictate the quality of our life in so many ways. And
It really can, for real.
I think I really appreciate your philosophy on that. And there's another philosophy that we've talked about, and real quick, just wanted to have you share. And I'm sure maybe it's changed. I know it's a constantly developing conversation we've had about the differences between LA and New York, because you've lived in both places. You have a philosophy on people in LA versus New York, and like value, like what they value. Yeah.
Okay. So this might not be the same. This is my newest version. All right. Okay, so I'll call this V2.
We should all evolve.
I'm thinking about it. So I've lived in LA for about like 8 months now. And
really that long?
Maybe.
I feel like because of those months that you came out here beforehand, it feels like so much longer. But I guess
like visits and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, about that long. And my perspective on LA now is it is a city based around relationships. Like what you're mentioning about why you start connections is I think the currency that LA runs on. And I think that is completely different than how I viewed New York. It's people didn't like hustle to get a stronger social circle. They hustled at their work and their like career to get like promoted. But people in LA have very untraditional career paths where you don't get promoted. You just it's almost like step functions.
Oh, wow.
It's 0 to 1. In order to go from 0 to 1, you need to have the right relationships. So what they're hustling on is being at these events, seeing these people, and like building out those connections. But I've never had that feeling before in New York because everyone's just working like a corporate job. And people are equally grinding, equally working hard, but just towards two completely different things. One is a like corporate ladder, and the second one is like your social circle.
It's funny because it almost sounds like currency in Los Angeles is connections, relationships. Currency in New York is currency.
Yeah, yeah, literally. Well, yeah, it's a little bit. I almost view it as like, okay, so like LA might be a little bit, the currency might be status, and then in New York the currency is money.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, I agree with that in so many ways, and I think that what I will say, one thing I tell people is like if you when they're new to LA is that I'm sure I had the same conversation with you, like trying to convince you to move to LA, which I did successfully, as we stated for the record.
You've stated.
The people that come to LA and then leave, usually what I notice, and then leave with like not a good opinion, is they say like, oh, the people were fake, or they didn't end up getting good circles. And I'm not going to put it all on them because it can be challenging here. It's a very, this place can be very transactional.
Yeah.
That's a word I use a lot I'm sure a lot of people use that for Los Angeles. It can be very transactional. Like, what can you do for me? Kind of because of what you were just talking about, the value of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But
not that explicit.
Yeah.
People are better than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will say that I've noticed, and I've just been very fortunate that I've been able to build community in Los Angeles, like multiple communities.
You've really told me this multiple times how good your communities are. You love mentioning that to me about how strong your relationship.
I'm just reminding you how lucky you are to be around me at any given moment. No, but I say all that to say that like I've been so fortunate to meet these different groups and have these different communities that have been very positive and are very uplifting, not in like a transactional way, in much as like a positive energy way. Saying positive energy, I'm sure it's its own very LA statement, but like in a positive way overall. And
they support you.
They're supportive and supportive oftentimes in like a even if not selfless, not self-serving way, a non-self-serving way.
Yeah.
And that's the energy I want to put out. That's what I want to do for people. I always want to, extend. I'm typically asking like, hey, like, is there anything I can support you on, sort of deal that you're doing, and just building up a circle of good people.
Yeah.
And I've said a little bit about it already when we were talking about your dad earlier, but I just am. I think that you're just a really good human being in all the ways that someone could be.
I feel like you've been saying that a lot more since I won Amazing Race, but
and yet he's still giving me no money, no kickback. I don't know why I'm even nice to you.
Not good enough.
It's pointless being nice to you.
I do want to say one good thing about LA that I've started to appreciate recently is there's so many people here that inspire me. Ooh. I love meeting people that are chasing their dreams. And I've met more people doing that in LA than I have in any other place, whether it be New York or DC or.
I agree with that.
And you'll have people who truly believe in something that they're passionate about. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like, you're a pretty good painter.
Inspiring is a great word. You're a pretty good painter, too. You have that piece on your wall,
Yeah.
We'll put that for sale. No. But so last question I tend to ask is like, what are the connections to, anything? It doesn't have to be a person. It could be a person or a thing or passion, hobby, whatever, that you are currently interested in developing or that you're working towards developing. I mean, I know you mentioned relationships, but is there anything outside of that you like, a connection to something that is that you're developing right now? You're focused on developing.
Actually, I think I would just double down on like my relationships and specifically like friendships, I think just like coming off of all these like reality TV shows and doing however many in like a year, it's 3. That's how many I did, in case you were wondering.
I think it's 3. I won 1, but
yeah.
who's counting?
Dude, I mean, I was basically gone, like completely taken away from society once every like 3 months for like a month, and it just really like hurt a lot of relationships. And I think I want to like reprioritize my relationships in my life, because for the past like year or so, it's been about like work. And now, thankfully having like won the amazing race, like I have a little bit of financial security and can like focus on fostering like fantastic relationships, like rebuilding old ones.
No, that's really special and a good thing to strive towards, kind of going off of your whole your new hedonic treadmill target that you talked about. So I think that's only going to yield good things. I really appreciate that energy in you in terms of trying to build relationships with, and just be a positive, supportive person to so many people. You and I have been doing like our accountability meetings to try and get on track.
Meeting to attend our accountability meeting.
Hey, it's about improvement. It's not about perfection. It's just about improvement, and we've been doing, and we've improved.
Oh yeah.
Don't listen to this shade on our accountability. I feel like overall it's been really good and really helpful. At least to
overall
me,
it has been.
Overall, exactly. Net positive, and we're just getting better. That's what it's about. But I really appreciate you coming out. I really appreciate our friendship, and yeah, I love you, and you inspire me, I will say, and I'm still waiting on my kickback from the amazing race, but
come to the accountability group. Maybe it's there.
But thank you for coming out, man.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having me. It's been awesome.
And I will say thank you all for watching. Thanks for listening. If you can go ahead, comment your favorite part. Like, share with your friends. There's some great wisdom here from my boy Derek.
Tell me if you want me to host this instead of Kyland.
Let us know. Don't let us know. You know what? Let us know, and it won't change anything. But no.
It'll change how much I make fun of him.
Yeah, exactly. No. Actually, you know what? Tell us if you want Derek to be a more regular co-host. Maybe we can make something like that happen if there's enough social pressure. I'll make him feel bad about it and get him to do it, so we can get somebody funny here. But no, really. Appreciate you for being here. Share, like, subscribe, all the things. And where can they find you, Derek?
Social media at Derek, last name XIAO _ every platform.
There we go. So that's where we find Derek. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for connecting with me.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.